On another thing about tartan, I'm so pleased to welcome Jamie MacDougall, the Lochdoon Lauder from Blairfoyle near Stirling, the very first professional singer to join the show to share some of his brilliant stories and the journey his voice and his musical talents have taken him on. Hello!
Hi.
Now, I said at the beginning that you were the Lochdoon Lauder. Is that pronounced correctly? Is it
Yes,
louder?
yes. Well, it was just a play on the whole lockdown thing.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking of a name for the production, because I suddenly became a producer to crowd fund and then get this production of Lauder filmed, I thought I'm going to come up with a title for the company. So I thought Loch Doon. It seems a nice play on the words with a sort of Scottish lilt to it, and it stuck.
So let's start with that then. Tell us all about that project and what brought
Okay,
you to do that and what you're doing with it.
right. Okay, so this play that I managed to get filmed last summer, the very first thing to appear in the King's Theatre in Edinburgh after lockdown was this filming of Lauder, and it was a real privilege and such an exciting time to be back on a stage and then to be able to tell the story of Harry Lauder's life. It's the play that was written back in 1976 by Jimmy Logan. And Jimmy Logan performed it at the festival and he toured it all around the world, really. But that year he took it to the King's Theatre and I was 10 and I was taken to see this play, one man play. I'd never heard of Harry Lauder, never heard his songs, I didn't know who he was, but I was taken along with my mum and dad, and then at the end of the week I was taken with my grandpa, Uncle Willie, and Aunt Elsie, and everybody sang the songs, but a record was bought for me, and I just loved the play. I remember being completely enthralled by the whole atmosphere, the whole story, and the songs, and the life, and the dancing, and the colour that Jimmy Logan was able to create on the stage of the Kings. So as a result, these songs have been part of my life and eventually into my professional career. And I've had so many incredible experiences singing these songs, some very powerful ones too. Whether it was singing in America or Australia or in a wee home, in a residential home in southwest London. I don't know if I've got time to tell it, but I was part of an organisation called Live Music Now, which was set up by Yehudi Menuhin, giving young artists an opportunity to perform to a live audience to people who wouldn't get out to a concert hall or to a theatre. So I went, one of the first to be signed up in Scotland. And when I went down to London to postgraduate studies in Guildhall, they signed me up there. But my repertoire hadn't changed. So I was shipped out to a home in, I think, near Wimbledon, somewhere southwest London. And I did my usual repertoire of the songs my grandfather used to sing. Songs that, it was the perfect age for the residents there. I Count John McCormick things and some little arias and songs. But I finished with a medley of Harry Lauder songs. Now, all the way through this 45, 50 minutes performance, there was a lady sitting in the front and non-responsive. Not a word, not a flicker, nothing. And everybody else was singing along until we got to the Harry Lauder medley. And she sang every word,
Oh,
and tears came down her cheeks as she sang.
oh,
Now, thankfully, I didn't know this until after.
uh-huh.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to sing. I feel just even talking about it, it's
Yeah,
emotional to relive it.
uh-huh.
But the staff in that home told me she'd been in for 18 months
Mm-hmm.
and they hadn't heard her speak a
Oh,
word.
really?
So the
Oh,
power
wow.
of music and the
Uh-huh,
power of these songs that had a memory
uh-huh.
tucked away there was able
Yeah,
to come out. And I've never forgotten that. And
really?
all the time that I've had the chance to perform Lauder, people have come up with their own little stories about how these songs resonate with them, whether it was their grandparents, whether it was their parents, whether it was little songs that were sung to them when they were in their crib or whatever. But everybody has some sort of connection because these songs are very much in our DNA, I feel, as Scots, of a certain generation. And I felt it was important. In fact, you know, my wife was from Mexico. We went to see Jimmy perform this for the last time up in Pitlochry, and I introduced myself to him. The Royal Scottish National Orchestra asked me to present there last night at the proms, and they said, what would you like to sing with the orchestra? And I said, I want a fully orchestrated medley of Harry Lauder's songs with the RSNO and the RSNO chorus. And they agreed. So all I needed now was some stories. So I managed to get a hold of Jimmy's number, and I called him up in Helensburgh at the time. I introduced myself, and I said, I got your number, and I'm doing these songs, and I was 10 when I saw you play, and the record was bought for me, and I learned all the songs, and he was going, oh, is that right, son? Aye, right. Well, I'm doing it just now in Pitlochry. I said, I'll be there. We'll come in to see you. And the only date that was available was our wedding anniversary, the 21st of September. And see, now you must be very impressed that I remember that.
I am impressed, I am.
And so my wife's from Mexico, never heard of Jimmy Logan, never heard of Harry Lauder, never heard of any of these things. We're driving up to Pitlochry, and she's saying, where are we going? What are we going to see? Who is it? And I said, it's lovely, we'll have a nice meal and then we'll go to the theatre, it'll be lovely. Well, Susie sat there, and there was Jimmy Logan, who had not long been diagnosed with cancer, right? On that stage, delivering Lauder. And Susie fell in love with Jimmy, and she fell in love with Harry Lauder and his life and his songs. And she, from Mexico, from Chihuahua in Mexico, said, that is a wonderful story that has to be told. So fast forward some years, Jimmy had passed away, and the story in the play really reflects the love that he had and the relationship he had with his son, John, his only son, who died in the song, and what his reaction to that was to then raise £1 million. And that's the story of the play. And it was getting near the commemoration of the 1914-1918 war, and I had this script that was given to me by Jimmy's widow when I asked for it. And I touted it around the National Theatre for Scotland and other theatre companies. They weren't interested. It was maybe too old-fashioned for them. It wasn't their thing. But I had this play, and I needed to put it on. So 2014 came, 2015 came, 2016. And I just wasn't able to. I was getting so frustrated. I finally put something on Facebook that said, I've got this, I need to get this done. And there was lots of friends and colleagues chipped in and gave me some bits of advice, etc. I thought, well, I can do this. Okay. So I contacted Scottish Opera, and Alex Redick, who's the head of Scottish Opera, I went, I had a wee meeting with him, and I told him all about my plans, and he said, Jim, what is it you want from us? And I said, well, I'd like maybe some help with rehearsal space and maybe help with costumes, because they're terrific that way. With other companies, they're very, very helpful that way. And he sat there and he said, Jamie, you know, it's the 150th anniversary of the Theatre Royal in Glasgow this year. This was back in 2018. And he said, would you be able to do this at the end of this year, say November, as we mark the 150th anniversary? We could be on the stage doing Traviata, but because it's our theatre, it would be fantastic to tie in the history of the theatre being a variety theatre and put on Lauder in the foyer. So that's all I needed. It was just it was like manna from heaven, and Scottish Opera co-produced it, and we put it on for about an hour and 25 minutes, no interval, in the foyer for 3 performances, and that was the start. And I've been able to take it to St Magnus Festival in Orkney, been able to take it to St Andrews Voices Festival. Last year, it was the last thing I did live, was at Celtic Connections, 2 performances of Lauder. And I was meant to then celebrate his 150th anniversary on the 4th of August in Portobello,
Oh,
transfer it to the Edinburgh Fringe, and then do a Scottish tour. All that
oh,
was cancelled.
oh,
So knowing that it was his big year, I had to make it happen, and I crowdfunded it. And within 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, the money was there. I had so much help from colleagues and friends in the business to come and film it. The original lighting director, David Cunningham, he wanted to be involved. The original director, Callie Lloyd-Jones, she wanted to be involved. It was an incredible bit of organising, and Duncan Henry, who had been the festival director, Edinburgh Festival director and King's Theatre director, CEO, he managed to swing it to get us into the King's Theatre. So it really was a big team effort, but we
mm-hmm.
got it filmed in a day. It was turned around in a week, and it was on YouTube by the 4th of August.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing what you can do under pressure, but
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, it's a real shame though that you
yeah.
didn't get to do what you wanted to do.
So fingers crossed. I mean, today I was talking to Duncan, and we've got some dates in the diary for October, but I don't think they're going to happen either. I think it's going to be the following spring before the theatres are
Mm-hmm.
open to the public in this
Yeah.
country, sadly. So
Oh,
watch this space, and
yeah.
maybe, if I do get a tour, you'll help publicise it, you'll help tell everybody to come and see
Yeah.
it. But really, it's a story that is universal, of a
Mm-hmm.
man's love for his son and for his country, the loss of his son, and what an incredible talent to able to use his talent to then go and help the thousands of men he was able to help
Uh-huh.
after the war.
Yeah, inspiring stuff. So does your wife sing as well then? Are you a pair?
No, no, though she did a fine arts degree in Chihuahua in Mexico, but she was a dancer. I met her
Ah,
dancing Mexican folk dance with the University of Chihuahua in
uh-huh.
Aberdeen at the Youth Festival when we
Yeah,
were youth in 1990. So I've done my bit for international relations.
you have.
I also tried to do my bit for the Scottish international football team, thinking, if I marry someone from Mexico, we might get somebody who could play a bit of football for Scotland, a bit of Latin American flair. But as it was, he turned out to enjoy football, and he's got a life in America thanks to soccer.
Oh, well,
He
there you
went
go.
to Houston and studied with the University of St. Thomas, and he played soccer there, and they won a pendant, and he's now living in Houston and married, and yeah, great.
Oh, so you managed to produce the soccer player, you just let him go again.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
sadly.
Oh, well, never mind. So tell us then, you've got so many stories. I feel like we could sit here all night with all your stories. But obviously, you're very relevant to this time of year because your birthday is actually Burns Night, isn't it?
I believe so.
Share
Somebody told
that
me.
with a very special man. So tell us some of the performances you've done or what you've been involved with in Burns Nights gone by and some of the highlights and good bits.
Well, I suppose the first festival I ever took part in was the Shettleston Toll Cross Burns Festival, when I turned up in my kilt and singing "My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose," which was, of course, not the sort of song a 9-year-old boy should sing. But I grew up with Scottish songs being sung. My grandpa was a trained singer, although he was a builder to trade, never sang professionally. But he always sang, and he sang these beautiful songs of Burns. So I grew up in a house singing these songs,
Mm-hmm.
and they really have, because of that connection of the 25th of January. I would be taken out to Burns suppers, so many Burns suppers when I was 12, 13, 14, 15. Some really good Burns suppers, the Loudon Burns supper and stuff with Jimmy Curry back in the day. Now I don't. Now I don't tend to do many Burns suppers,
Uh-huh.
um, but the ones that I have done, let's see, one or two that stand out. Well, I suppose the biggest one would have been at the United Nations with Kofi Annan, when Robert Burns was the first poet to be honoured with a gala dinner. And Kofi Annan gave this wonderful speech, weaving in the texts of Robert Burns, the importance of Burns's message for brotherhood and equality, weaving in Lincoln's connections to Burns' poetry that we all know now, and how important they were to help form his mind and his ideas. So that was very special to be there with my friends and colleagues from Caledon, singing "A Man's a Man" for all that, in front of a very full United Nations gala dinner in honour of Robert Burns. But, you know, I've sung his songs in Sydney Opera House, I've sung the songs in Adelaide, Australia, and Mexico. They've been a wonderful vehicle for me to be able to share our incredible, rich musical culture with the world.
And do you get nervous then? All these great big events you've done, lots of famous names, and how do you feel? What's your, as a person, how do you deal with that?
Look, it's all very exciting. You know, I've been singing since I was 8.
You're not phased.
You know, it's always great to embrace that moment and to just really enjoy every second of it. Especially, you know, when you have an audience, and you can see the audience. It was great fun. I mean, we had wonderful times with Caledon because we got to sing all these fantastic Scottish songs in a slightly different, new, contemporary way, but with our voices, and a lot of humour was in the delivery with the audience. And we always had great rapport with the audience, so it was always very relaxed, you know. And I think that hopefully I give the air of being relaxed when
you do.
Of course, I'll be a little bit nervous. Of course, absolutely. I think I'd be made of stone if I
But then
wasn't.
that's maybe the sign of a true performer, is it? That you're not, you know, you're enjoying it. Whereas to me, that would be the worst thing ever, to be up on a stage like that.
Well, yeah, okay, I've got to take that. Yes, all right. Maybe that's why we should. That's why we get paid for it. It's our profession.
That's right, exactly. Now, we were talking the last time I spoke to you, and you mentioned your story about the haggis child in Chicago. So can you share that with our listeners? Because we've got the story on our blog. We're about to publish it on our blog as well. But I just think it's the best story, and it was so funny that you knew the story too, and it's good to hear it from someone else.
Well, many years ago, just before I got married, I got the call. Bill McHugh was meant to go over and do the Feast of the Haggis in Chicago, and he couldn't make it, but he suggested myself. Actually, if I go the year before that, I'd gone to Chicago and stayed for two months and studied with a teacher in Chicago, January, February, and I called up the society and I said, look, I'm over from Scotland, I'm here doing a wee bit of studying. If you're looking for a Scottish singer, I'm very happy to come along and sing. And they turned me down. They already had someone. I said, well, that's fine. That's fine, I understand. But just because I was here in Scotland. So the next year, Bill McHugh asked if I would go, and Chicago accepted, and I went out. And it was fantastic. I love Chicago. Chicago is probably my favourite American city. I love it. So we arrived at the Hilton Towers, you know, so it used to be in the Hilton Towers. I think it's in Pier, whatever it is now, the naval, whatever it is down in the ocean. But at that time, it was the Hilton Towers, which is the hotel that appears in The Fugitive, right? So it's really grand. And they had this enormous top table, and we were raised above everybody. You could see just a sea of tartan, right? And I was next to the man who was who ran the Bank of Scotland, in Chicago, maybe even from New York. He came over, and first of all, they served the haggis, and you couldn't buy haggis there, so it was made in the hotel, and the haggis wasn't haggis. It was like warm patty, right? That's how we could describe it. So that was the first course, and everyone was fine after that. So I had a lovely time. I sang some songs and everything, and then the most bizarre experience. It was like their equivalent of the Wicker Man. They had the haggis child, and I had no idea what this was about. I had not a clue. And we see this huge silver salver was being wheeled down through the tables to the front of the stage with great ceremony, great pomp and circumstance, and pipes, if I remember right. And after a drum roll, the lid was lifted of this enormous silver salver, and a child popped up in a kilt. And I thought, oh, goodness sake, it's almost ritualistic. But after the initial shock, the wee guy he was quite a performer. He enjoyed the limelight. It was great, but it was quite a shock. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
It was like the Wicker Man. It really was.
Well, I think it's quite an honour to be the haggis child, though, because you're chosen because of all the good work you've done in the community or your family have. So, yeah.
Is it not because you're small enough to fit? Is it not because you're small enough to fit under the silver salver?
I think so, and I think there's some children who found it a bit more frightening than others as well. So, imagine you're there, and then you pop out, and there's all these people looking at you. But I'm glad that the children enjoyed that. So.
You know, many years ago, as part of going over and singing at the supper, you also do a little concert for the residents of the Scottish Home, and that was great to go in there and sing to the residents there. And many years later, when I went over with Caledon, we also did a concert they built this new sort of almost like a gallery or exhibition centre in the basement, and it's a nice big space, and it's got lots of plaques of important American Scots. It was fascinating, and we did a wee concert there. So they do so much, and they raise so much, and they do a great job there with the Scottish Home.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So you've been all over the world. Now, you told me a brilliant story as well about being in Central Station.
Yes, yes, Grand Central in New York for tartan. Again, this was another Caledon escapade. So we were asked to go over and perform a number of different things, and one was to appear on the stage that they built in Grand Central Station, because they had erected this bulletproof glass display case, and they were displaying William Wallace's sword. Right, I think it's the first time it'd ever been out of the country ever. How they got it on as hand luggage in the plane, God only knows. But anyway, they got it there, and it was behind this glass, and in each corner you had like an armed security guard to protect this big lump of metal. If anybody had been able to, first of all, break through the glass, would be quite an achievement. But to be able to lift it and then leg it down Fifth Avenue, I mean, that you would deserve to get the sword if you could do that. But it wasn't likely to happen. But that was really a thrill, because there we were, Grand Central Station, and singing Scots Wha with the sword right there. It was quite very special.
Yeah, you're a lucky man. You've done some great things. So what do you then, as a person, what do you love most about Scotland then? What do you love taking with you when you go overseas? And I mean, you've mentioned the kind of richness of some of the songs you sing. And
yeah, what I love to take overseas with me when I go is a box of tunnocks.
Yes, always appreciated.
Yeah, what do I love to take with me? Well, we're just, first of all, our songs,
Hmm.
and through our songs, we're able to create an atmosphere and an image of Scotland which is universal. We've had so many, when I say we, when we were used to tour with Caledon in Germany, we did months of doing cabaret in this fantastic venue in Berlin, and the amount of Germans that would come over to us and say, we just love your songs. We're going to go and visit Scotland, and they would go and visit Scotland, and then when we came back to sing, they would come and see us and say, oh, "We went to Scotland. It was just like the songs. It's just exactly what you sang about." Um, and I think we have this wonderful image. I mean, maybe a few years ago, I was singing in Mexico, in Guadalajara, and it was a mixture of repertoire. I was doing some opera and some musicals, and in the second half, I wore my kilt and sang some Scottish songs. And I got my brother, who's a sound designer and editor, and he put together a wonderful collage of um, of images of Scotland. And I just knew that people weren't listening to me anymore. They were just looking at the pictures. And I really wanted to look myself because uh, it's, let's just say, it's a very easy country to sell.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
very fortunate.
Yes, yes, we are very lucky. Yeah, I agree. I always feel.
And the funny thing is, when Susie's from the north of Mexico, which is very arid, desert, Chihuahua. But I grew up with my dad reading the books of Louis L'Amour and all the westerns and
Uh-huh.
watching all the movies. And it was John Wayne, it was Clint Eastwood, and Randolph Scott and all these movies. And I had this image of America on a horse, and I got to El Paso, and it's the Rio Grande, right? And I was so excited. I was really looking forward to seeing the Rio Grande like I'd seen in the movies, right? And we got to the border, and it was a concrete bridge over like a concrete canal, and it was this little trickle. And I was so disappointed that
Oh,
that was the Rio Grande. But we got to Mexico, and it was a drove from Juarez to Chihuahua, and we were driving through the desert, and you could see these incredible mountains that just come up from nowhere, and the sort of reds and orange and purples, and I was just, this is just beautiful. I just love this. And Susie's mum kept saying, I don't understand. I don't understand how he thinks this is beautiful. Um, it's because it was so different. And when
yes.
Susie's mum came over to Scotland, well, God, we had to stop every 100 yards so she could take a photograph.
Uh-huh.
And that's what she said, Jamie, how can you think our country's beautiful when you live in this?
Yeah.
So we are very lucky.
Yes, we are. Very spoiled. So you mentioned that you had your kilt on when you were performing. So are you a kilt man then? Do you like wearing your kilt?
Yes, I have worn my kilt from as early as I can remember. Yeah, 6, 7, maybe 5 actually. My auntie Heather's wedding was 5, so I've been wearing my kilt from 5. And my knees look like it as well.
And you've got your tartan tie on as well. So you're a MacDougall, I should say.
Oh,
So
MacDougall, but this is my middle name. This is Sinclair.
I was going to say that's not MacDougall. So yeah,
No,
that's
it's
Ah, so you've got two then. So as a family then, did you celebrate your roots as kids? Then you were saying your grandpa did lots of singing, but do you think you were kind of appreciative of your Scottish culture as kids, or?
oh, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my birthday cake was always a haggis.
Yes.
It was a haggis with a candle in it, and that's as far as that's as far back as I can remember. That's what it was. And that's what it will be on Monday.
Uh-huh.
Oh yes, we sang the songs. It was certainly very much, Hogmanay, Christmas in Hogmanay, having an open house. And at that point, at that time, everybody did have a party piece. Everybody
Mhm.
had a song to sing, and that's what our house was, just full of music at that time.
yeah, I always feel I've come to appreciate my culture a bit more as I got older. But I think that's because my parents went into it in such a way, so it's
Right.
something that I've kind of learned as I've got older. And
Ah, great. Oh, that's
now
good.
I've gone and explored it all, and I need my dad to come back so that I can tell him everything that
Oh,
I've learned.
yeah, yeah.
No, well, thank you very much for joining us and for telling us all your stories. It's very entertaining, and yeah, what a fabulous career, and what next?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been very nice to meet you through LinkedIn and through the Scottish the Scottish Business International Business Forum. Is that the right? Is that the right
Business Network, we meant to be
network? That's
right.
it. That's it.
That's what will tell us.
So you know, we've all got to keep in touch. We've all got to work hard to promote this fantastic country in any way we possibly can. If it means singing a song, if it means selling products, then it's great that we can do this, and we've got such a wonderful country to be able to sell.
Yeah, lucky people.
Have a
Okay.
wonderful Burns night when it comes.
I know, Burns night. I know. I've got my haggis ready. We're very lucky because we had a delivery from McSween's yesterday. So we have enough haggis here in this office for about for a very big party. So,
And do you have the authentic, or have you gone vegetarian, or have you even gone vegan?
well, I am a farmer's wife, so there's no way I'm allowed to have anything vegetarian or vegan. But we do have a couple of vegetarians on the team, so Mr. McSween was very kind. James put some vegetarian in there as well. So
Right,
it's
okay.
actually quite tasty, I have to admit.
Oh, they are very tasty. It is very tasty, I have to say. Yes, I'm doing a burn supper on an online burn supper for Anderston's. You know, the pyramid in Glasgow. There's this wonderful church which is a pyramid, the big green pyramid in Anderston. And during lockdown, they distributed hundreds and hundreds of food parcels and meals to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw a post that I put up saying I've got to do something and sing something for Burns Night. They said, well, do you want to come and present, maybe sing or host our one from Anderston? I said, that would be brilliant. So people will be able to pick up a haggis supper, a meal from one of the local restaurants. It was a terrific restaurant,
Yeah.
and take it home, and then they'll be able to join us for an hour. So this is the best burn supper ever because it only lasts an hour.
You can't say that.
I got Ruth Wishart to come and do the immortal memory. I said, Ruth, 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. So it's going to be brilliant. Because as far as I'm concerned, sometimes you go to a burn supper and it's all about how many gags you can get in, and let's just talk a wee bit about Robert Burns, and it gets very wearing after a while. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think Burns would have really loved the whole ethos of what they've been doing during lockdown, and will continue to do in this wonderful community venture in Anderston. And I'm delighted to be doing that on Burns Night.
I shall have to explore that. So I agree. I think in a way there might be more people celebrating Burns Night because you can access it. Everyone can access it. You don't have to have a special event, do you? And all these things
That's
you're
right.
doing, thing that's being done online. Yeah,
Yes.
it's interesting speaking to our customers. We've heard a lot of good stories of what they're all getting up to from their
Well,
homes.
that's good. I was thinking the poor farmers, because think of all the neeps they would sell at this time of year for burn suppers happening up and down. And my wife got a wee neep today, and it's tiny. It's like a miniature neep. And of course, there's just the two of us here just now, so it's going to be absolutely fine. But a wee tiny toty neep. Oh, that's another thing. When I went to Chicago that time to study, of course, I was going to be there for my birthday, so I took a tin. You could get a tin at the airport. So I got a tin of haggis and I sneaked it into America. and then of course I needed to try and find a neep. So I went to the big store and I said, "Hello, have you got a turnip, or have you got a Swede?" They had not an idea. They hadn't a clue what I was talking about until I discovered But in America, what we call a neep or a turnip or a swede is a rutabaga.
Ah.
So if you're wanting to do a bun supper in America, you've got
Right.
your patties, it's a rutabaga, and
Okay.
your tin of haggis.
And the tin.
Or warm patty if you're at the Hilton Towers.
Oh, well, I think the McSweens are working on a recipe for America, so hopefully by the time we get allowed out again, maybe it'll be ready and we can have proper haggis.
Well, if they need an official taster.
Oh, I'll tell them, I'll tell them. You'll sing for your supper.
I'll sing, I'll recite to a haggis if they want me to, I'll do that as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, well, I'll let you go and enjoy your evening.
You don't want me to sing?
You're going to sing?
Look, I can sing a wee bun song.
Oh, I think you should then, definitely.
But it's very quick, and I think it's sort of these cold winter mornings we're experiencing just now. I think this is very apposite, and it's up in the morning early. Cold blows the wind frae east to west, the drift is driving sadly. See loud and shrill, I hear the blast, I'm sure it's winter fairly. Up in the morning's no for me, up in the morning early, when all the hills are covered with snow, I'm sure it's winter fairly. The birds are chittering in the thorn, all day they fair but spare me, and langs the nicht frae into morn, I doot it's winter fairly. Up in the morning's no for me, up in the morning early, when all the hills are covered with snow, I'm sure it's winter fairly. Happy Buns Night when it comes.
Thank you. That was fantastic. If only I could sing.
Next time.
Next, no, honestly. I am not a singer. Anything else, but not singing. So, good. Oh, well, you enjoy your birthday, enjoy your buns night. I'll tell James McSween you're ready to do the taste.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.